Now let's talk about dimensions. So dimensions are essentially right here on the left-hand side. They're going to be the rows. Right now, this report is a page activity report. We only have one dimension, and it's just the page. So if I wanted to add another dimension, I would come down here and click the plus sign here. And then let's say I wanted to find out where these pages are coming from, what country, for example. I could type country, and essentially these are all the parameters that we are collecting, right? So any parameter can be used as a dimension. Country is one. Let's choose the country. So now I know that if I wanted to see the home page here, what countries are hitting the home page. And I can expand that, and we'll see the different countries that are hitting the home page. We have 15 sessions coming in from the US that landed on this particular page, and so forth. I can add another dimension by coming down here into the country and adding another. It doesn't really matter where you add it. You can click down here and add another dimension. So this has two dimensions. We're going to add a third dimension. Let's say the city, for example. I can click city, and now underneath the page, the country, I can expand the country, and I will see the cities and the measures around that. So these are the different cities in the United States where this page was hit on. And I can move them around too. So if I wanted to get a different perspective, I could drag this up here, have country, page. I can even, if this makes sense, so United States, I can see from the United States what pages were hit from there, and then within those pages, what cities specifically. So like the error page, I can see what cities, North Hollywood, Seattle, and so forth, that hit upon this specific page. So adding dimensions is really simple. If you want a little more advanced feature, you can actually, for this test, we're going to add create a new report here. And just to show you, if you add dimension, this is a little more advanced, you're creating a dimension. You can choose a parameter again, like we were choosing before. And let's say I'm just going to use page again. So we just do like page title. And I will go ahead, by default, it's all events, and I'll put page, let's say, Z page title dimension. And I'm going to go ahead and run this report. And this is going to be very similar to the page activity. So I'm going to get back like the home, release notes. It doesn't show the full URL. It's just the page title. But you can see that the home, there's 64. Now, if I edit this dimension, you're going to see the original by default is all events. Now, I can choose from different options of what I want returned back from that dimension. So, for example, if you look at this one, first event in sessions. So identify events where the dimensions parameter is present in the first event of the session. So what that means is that if the home page, in this case, if the home page was the very first event in that session, then return that, count that data for me. So right now the homes, you can see here, I have 64 sessions. Let's see, users, views is 70. If I change this to first event and save it, I should expect less actually, either the same or less, because people, and here it is home, right? You have a lot less here because it's possible that people came in that their first event during a session was going directly to the downloads page. It doesn't have to be the home page. Now, if I change this again to, let's choose another option here so you can see. So let's say that it's the last event in the session. So that means during the entire session, was the home page their last event? We'll see what happens, but I don't expect that to be a lot, right? Because you usually land on the home page. And that makes sense here because your first event is coming to the home page. But when you leave, you might leave on another page. So if I choose last event and save this here, I get back the data as, let's see, so release notes. Oh, so homepage was, it's still on the top, but it wasn't the top. It looks like release notes was the last event. That's almost what people typically leave on. So this gives you an idea of how you can use dimensions and add that. And of course, you have unlimited number of dimensions that you can add. There's no limit there, and all the parameters that we collect at WebTrends can be added into a dimension. So these are all the different parameters that we can collect. Now let's talk about measures. The measures are essentially the number columns here. So the measures going across, by default, the reports, when we create a new report, it will include 3, which is sessions, users, and views. And then you can add additional measures and create additional measures. Measures have the same type of interface. I mean, you can simply click one of these plus buttons here to add a new measure. And you can select from a pre-existing measure that you've created, or you can create a new one through here. So let's say I wanted to measure all the Chrome users, right? Let's say the browser. So if I look up a parameter that we collect, it would be a browser name. And let's say browser name equals Chrome. And I will save this as Chrome browser users. Save that here. So I'm creating a column for Chrome browser users, and now I'm going to count how many Chrome browser users actually came to this home page here, and visited this page and so forth. I can add a dimension here just to show you, to make it a little more clear. I'm going to add another dimension where, let's say, browser name. And so if I expand this first page, let's say the home page, I'm going to get a list of all the different browsers here, like Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, and get the count of the sessions that touched upon this page. And I can see from Chrome, the numbers are consistent, right? I have 17 and 17 users here. I'm actually counting the users, right? So 17, 17, and I will actually get a count on the bottom. So these will be 0 because this Internet Explorer, even though I have users on Internet Explorer and Firefox, that is not what I'm trying to measure. So here is just focused on Chrome. So measures are quite simple. You have a nice UI. It's very similar to the segment UI. You still have the options that I discussed before in segments. And on top of that, you can actually count. You have a special, because it is a count, you're able to count the events, sessions, or users. So depending on how you want to show your data, you can count it based upon these 3 different types. So that's it for measures. It's very simple, and again, you can stack it, and all the parameters that we collect are available for use as a measure. Let's talk a little bit about the parameters that WebTrends collects. This gear icon here, if you click on it, will take you to a section you can click for parameters. So this is all the data that WebTrends are collecting, and the parameter names, if you look through, is going to be listed here. You can give each parameter an alias, and you can assign it to whether or not you want to use it in analytics or not. So these are the ones that are named. If I choose the one that are unnamed, you can see parameters that we may be collecting that are not in use. So we can be collecting these parameters. We would just give it a name and then change the use by. So all the parameters that we collect, remember, can be used as in a segment, it can be used in a dimension, and it can be used in a measure. So if you don't see a parameter that you need in the report and you know you're collecting it, you can come here and you would have to set that. You basically give it a display name and choose analytics here to choose that. So this is a place to manage all your parameters. So let's talk a little bit about collections. When you first log into Infinity Analytics, you will come to a page like this. And these are collections that you see here. You can create a new collection by clicking this button, and the collection is basically a container for your reports. So if I created a collection here, what I can do is I can give it a new name. Let's say it's a new collection. I can segment the data in this collection. So it allows you to add a segment that you previously saved, or create a segment. It's very similar to the analytic reporting, creating a segment in there. So you can create a segment here, same type of interface, same parameters that you can use. And basically what this does is any reports within this collection is going to be segmented automatically if there's a segment applied here. So you can either add the segment here, or you can add it individually to your reports. But if you know all your reports in this collection, for example, is going to be I could have a segment where country equals Japan. I might as well just add it in one place here and then create all the reports without the need to segment each report. Down below are all the public reports, and so you're able to select from individual reports that you want to include in this collection. So what it'll do is it'll add it to this collection. So you can essentially just take any public reports and have that automatically in your collection. And so you can save that, and essentially that's all collections are. And once you're able to get to the screen for collections, you can select, just say the first right here, I can actually select and jump to an analytic report right away. So as an example, I could just choose like page activity and jump there, and it will take you right to the familiar screen of the reporting here. So I'm within the collection. You can see here I'm in the collection analytic and the collection all data copy, and here's are all the reports within that collection. Now let's talk about adding users and user permissions. So coming to the main screen here where you see your collections, on the left-hand side, let's go to the account setting buttons with this gear icon. So if you click that gear icon, if you have the correct permissions, such as administrator, you should see all these different selections available. The first thing up here is creating a user. So it's very simple. You just click invite users and just enter in the email address. And once you enter in the email address for that person, they will receive an email to sign up and so forth. You can assign that person to a group, and the nice thing about creating groups is that it will automatically fill in the roles. So for example, if I were to choose the admin group, you can see that it gives for certain products such as Explore and account settings, it gives them certain roles automatically. If I were to add a different role, let's just say demo analytics group, you can see that it adds these roles automatically also. Now I can stack the groups by also adding admin group again here, so now it automatically fills in the different roles. If you do want to set data permissions on what this person can have access to, you can set that through here. So you can select the data permissions, and data permissions are going to be created here, just like for roles you can create here, and groups you can create here. So very briefly, let's go through each one of them. If we go to groups, if I were to create a group here, I can give the group a name, and you're just selecting the roles that you want for each of the products. And you can also set the data permissions down here also. If I go to roles and create a role here, you can create a role for each product, so such as analytics, and just give that role for analytics, give it a role name that maybe this person is view only, analytics view only, just an example, right? So analytics view only. So I could have a role, for example, and I'll just select view only here and save that. So now I create another role. Also for data permissions, I can come here and create data permissions and set criteria on the data permission. So I can say, for example, if I wanted to see data only for Japan, for example, I could select country and be able to have matched the specified value for that. So, and that's it for users and permissions. So, Japan, as example. There you go.